The following is intended for mature audiences. This episode is sponsored by nobody. How about a homosexual in need? For free, rate and review with the 5-star rating and share with your favorite spooky buddy to help get this out there into the algorithm further. Now, let's get into the show. Welcome to a world where darkness and mystery converge. Navigate the depths of horror and true crime and join a society beyond the ordinary, where buzzworthy topics, paranormal tales, and listener-submitted experiences blend into a realm of the unknown. You have crossed into a place where the unusual and the terrifying are just the beginning. My name is Ralph Anthony, and welcome to the Scream Society podcast. Hello, Screamers. Welcome back into another edition of this spooky little variety podcast from hell, where chaos is our comfort zone, caffeine is my coping mechanism, and honestly, reality just keeps getting darker than any horror movie out there. Because in the dawn of Hitler sympathizers, seriously, Halloween backlash, because everyone suddenly forgot what fun was supposed to look like, and screams for boycotts on major motion picture franchises. Guys, I'm exhausted, but here we are, still surviving, still fighting, still screaming. Hang in there. I've been keeping busy with work and finally got my hands on the remake of Resident Evil 4, which is a beautiful game. Fun little fact, my favorite genre of video game is the survival horror subgenre. Surprising, I know. Resident Evil being my favorite franchise, I should do a little playthrough with all of the recent releases. Because honestly, I've been thinking about going over to Twitch to stream games and maybe even do like live versions of the podcast. We'll see though. But how are you all? We're about mid-November, holidays are approaching, and I know how this time of year can always be really stressful and just, it's always so much. There's so much going on. It's a lot. And I actually felt like I couldn't really enjoy Halloween this year. Okay, but is it just me, or does it feel like more and more people are running those mouths about Halloween season?
I'm sorry, but if you are over the age of 18 and you are about to go put on an outfit and go celebrate Halloween, what the fuck are you doing?
Just in case you feel behind, there's grown men getting ready to get dressed and finding costumes as we're speaking. They're trying to find costumes to wear for this Friday or Saturday. You go to a Halloween party and get completely hammered knowing his family may need help.
Also, not to mention all of those sad little videos I've seen on Instagram and TikTok of people saying how there was no one really out trick-or-treating, like, where have all the trick-or-treaters gone? And then people are blaming Trunk or Treat, saying Trunk or Treat ruined Halloween and all of this. And I can kind of see that, but I also disagree because I think Trunk or Treat has created this really fun culture around Halloween time where even businesses can participate and have their own trunk or treats and get into the Halloween spirit and give out candy to whoever. So yeah, I don't think Trunk or Treat is responsible for the death of quote unquote Halloween. But yeah, like I was saying, it just seems like people are kind of hating more on the holiday. If you really don't like something, what makes you think the internet wants to hear you bash people who love something, right? Oh my gosh, fun little side story here. So immature on both ends too, mine included. But I got into an argument with someone on Facebook over Scream 7, right? Someone who came to me talking about they should stop making Scream films. It's getting weird. All of this. And I jokingly replied, Well, they haven't made it to 9 or 10 like the other franchises yet, so they should keep going. And this guy kept going back and forth. So I was just like, you know what? What am I doing here? Like, okay, if you don't like or vibe with what I'm posting, let me just remove you. Not blocked, removed. And he got so mad. He direct messaged me. He called me a pussy. He called me a geek and told me how I should man up, like over scream. And let's not even get into the type of shit he posted on his account. Some would even call that geek coded, but I let people love what they love, okay? So anyway, I'm pissed and respond basically saying that if I was a pussy that I would have blocked him. And I don't want him here if you're going to be annoying and negative. Like, period, point blank, move on. Get over it. Move on with your life. He doesn't reply to me, but starts posting and deleting stuff on his page. Yes, I went to go look. And I'm sharing them with him, I'm literally sharing them via direct message, basically giving him that same energy that he approached me with. Like, if you're going to act all tough on the internet, be prepared for people to bring that same energy. Right? But okay, eventually I stopped because I'm an adult and I actually realized how stupid it was. And why are you being such a hater? Go live your life. I don't know why people have to put so much energy into just tearing someone down for loving what they love. Not everyone is going to love what you love, and that's okay. If adults choose to dress up and go to parties or give out candy or trick or treat with their children, let them. All right, now, before getting into anything, I do have to celebrate, and not that anyone actually would want to marry me, but shout out to the U.S. Supreme Court for denying a request to revisit same-sex marriage since it's been legal here in the U.S. since 2015, and the fact that we're even having this conversation 10 years later. If you don't know what I'm talking about and why I'm celebrating, on November 10th, the Supreme Court officially denied Kim Davis's request to overturn Obergefell versus Hodges, which is the 2015 case that legalized same-sex marriage in the United States. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because Kim Davis was that county clerk from Kentucky who refused to issue marriage licenses to gay couples, claiming it went against her religious beliefs. She got a ton of attention back then, mostly for all the wrong reasons. You might remember her, she's the woman of God, mighty, and lives by God's word. And she's been divorced 3 times too, by the way. So yeah, the woman preaching about traditional marriage wasn't exactly practicing what she preached, but don't they all behave this way? I am religiously fatigued by this religious psychosis we are living through right now. I just blocked a cousin the other day for speaking out against therapy and how God is the true answer, which could be true for some people, but completely dismissing mental health care when we live in a time where people struggle with it so much is just, it was so wild to me, like what I was reading. Anyway, Kim Davis lost her case years ago, but she's been trying to appeal it ever since. And this latest attempt, she wanted the Supreme Court to basically overturn gay marriage in the US. Imagine spending 10 years of your life trying to appeal someone's right to get married because their lifestyle doesn't align with yours. Their lifestyle enrages you. It kind of goes back to what I was saying, like letting people love what they love, like not letting it ruin your day, your month, your year, your life. And she should have been focusing on conditioning and detangling that hair. But anyway, like I said, on November 10th, the court officially denied her request, meaning same-sex marriage is still legal nationwide, and Kim Davis is still ordered to pay 2 gay guys $380K. Now I can move on with my life. Let's do a 911 call. Just to set the stage a little here, this one takes place in Boulder City, Nevada, way back in January of 2013, and it involves a man named Lieutenant Hans Walters, who was with the Metropolitan Police Department in Las Vegas. Now, outwardly, he looked like he had everything together: a stable job, a nice home, a wife, a little boy. But what happened inside that house one night was something nobody really saw coming. Let's get into it. So, on the morning of January 21st, dispatchers in Boulder City got a call that hung up almost as soon as it came in. Normally, that could mean anything: wrong number, pocket dial, whatever. But when the caller called back, they revealed themselves to be Lieutenant Hans Walters. And right away, his tone was calm, too calm actually. He told the dispatcher that he had just shot and killed his wife and son. He explained that he'd done it because his wife Michelle was in constant pain, chronic neck and back pain, and that she was on so much medication she wasn't going to survive. You can actually hear it in the 911 call that was later released. He sounds flat, emotionless, almost like he's reporting something at work, not confessing to something this horrific, right? The call only lasted 1 minute and 43 seconds, and before he hung up, he said, "Forgive me for my sins." Take a listen.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, 1313 Esther Drive, Boulder City, Nevada.
And what's the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
My name is Hans Walters.
Mm-hmm.
I work for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I just shot and killed my son, Max, and my wife, Michelle. And I killed her because she's in such chronic pain from her neck and back, and on more medicines, and she's not going to survive. I've also set the house on fire, and if the fire department comes to my house, because there's a fire hydrant right in front of my house, I'm going to open fire on them. So I have to wait till the house is burning, and then I'm going to shoot myself, okay? So
okay,
I don't ask me any questions. This is real. This isn't a joke. The fire alarms in the background is because I set the garage and the bedroom on fire. My wife's in the bedroom. I shot her in the head. My son, unfortunately, is in the living room watching Oswald, and I shot him in the head, too. And, forgive me for my sins. Please don't call back. Thank you.
After that call, police rushed over to the home on Esther Drive, but by the time they arrived, the house was already on fire. Hans had told the dispatcher that he'd set it on fire himself, the garage and the bedroom, and that he didn't want anyone coming near it. He even warned that if firefighters tried to use the hydrant out front, he would open fire on them. He also told the dispatcher where he had shot his family, saying he shot Michelle in the head while she was in bed, and their 5-year-old son Max in the head while he was sitting in the living room watching cartoons. So heartbreaking. By the time police arrived, the scene was chaos. Boulder City officers, along with units from Henderson and North Las Vegas, had all responded. It was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so the nearby elementary school was closed. They actually used the school parking lot as their command post. Then, as the fire in the house grew, officers saw Hans walk out the front door holding a gun. He motioned for police to back away and then went back toward the house. Now, a short time later, SWAT officers found him lying outside the doorway, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Inside the burning home, they found Michelle and Max. Michelle, whose legal name was actually Catherine, had been shot above her eyebrow and was found on the bed in the master bedroom. Max had been shot in the back of the head. Both had to be identified later by their fingerprints. Now, in the days that followed, the Henderson Police Department led an investigation that took about 3 months to complete. What they found painted this really sad, complicated picture of what life inside that home might have been like leading up to that morning. Michelle had been struggling with a serious back injury for a while now. One she likely got from running, which she loved. She'd already had one surgery and was scheduled for another the following month. Friends and neighbors told investigators that Michelle was often exhausted, in pain, and on a lot of prescription medications, not just for her back, but also for depression. Hans had even started to hint that he thought that she might actually be abusing her medication, but no one really knew how bad things had actually gotten. And on top of that, there was money trouble. Michelle had left her job with the Las Vegas Police Department a few years earlier, meaning Hans was the only one working. They had medical bills, mortgage payments, and according to friends, had spent a lot of money on in vitro fertilization to have Max. So they were struggling emotionally, financially, and physically. Hans was about to be switched to a graveyard shift, which would have made things even harder. And just a few days before the murder-suicide, one of his coworkers noticed Hans giving away things from his desk. And yet, to everyone else, they seemed fine. Family and friends said they looked like a happy couple. No fights, there was no abuse, nothing really alarming. Neighbors barely knew them. One even said they didn't realize a child had lived there. But inside the home, something had just completely fallen apart. When Hans's autopsy came back, it showed that he had Maximilian and Michelle tattooed on his right arm. And it's just one of those really heavy details that makes me realize that this was a man who loved his family, but somehow through the struggles and the financial troubles and all of that, he had somehow convinced himself that what he was doing was an act of good or an act of mercy. And to me, that is just so heartbreaking. Let's take a break. From the blood-soaked depths of late-night horror comes a collection so shocking, so scandalous, it'll make your wardrobe scream. Want my face on your chest? Or maybe you just want to rep the cult, the logo, the legend, the Scream Society? Don't just listen to the nightmare, wear it, rep it, live it. Get it now before it gets you. Head to scream-society.printify.me and rep Scream Society merch. Welcome back. Let's get into sinister subjects, shall we? This podcast actually came from the same idea as my original show, because when I first started podcasting, I wanted to talk about horror, give my thoughts on scary movies, paranormal, true crime, all of it. And over time, it just kind of grew into what it is now. And right now, I'm actually having this full circle moment. It's been 3 years of me podcasting. The Scream Society is just over a year old, but I've been podcasting for 3. My very first show, the very messy Scream Queer podcast, which is only on Spotify, that was the blueprint, right? The Scream Society is essentially the remake, just way better, if that makes any sense. I don't know what I'm going off on over here. But my point is, king of exposition here, thinking back, my very first topic ever was Scream 6 and the whole pay dispute with Neve Campbell. Remember all that? That was way back in November 2022. And now, here we are, November of 2025, anticipating Scream 7. Holy shit. The new trailer and first looks at the film dropped a day before Halloween. It was indeed a Halloween miracle. And I have to give it to them. They showed a lot without giving too much away, like most trailers do nowadays. But shall we break that down? Now, the Scream 7 trailer opens with a scene of a couple staying in what appears to be the house of Stu Macher from the original film, now converted into this Airbnb. There's a really cool animatronic of Ghostface, which Spirit Halloween should really take notes of. Then we see someone dressed as the real killer, and the house becomes the site of a sudden violent Ghostface attack, of course. And I say attack because we don't know if anyone in that little clip died. It looks great though. The girl swinging from the chandelier and appearing to fall on top of Ghostface as he points his knife up just looks really cool. Then the focus moves to Sidney Prescott, played by Queen Neve Campbell, who has once again built a new life away from this constant horror. The trailer shows her in a quieter domestic setting, running what seems like a coffee shop, raising a daughter. Imagine being a barista for Sidney Prescott. That's a dream career right there. And question, Scream 5 shows Sid jogging with 2 baby girls, or it was like a double stroller. I don't know if they were 2 baby girls. It was a double stroller. Now, this means these are different children, and the 17-year-old daughter that they show in the 7th installment's trailer is the oldest, and the 2 little ones are away. Or they're just retconning the story. Please don't. Now, inevitably, Ghostface reaches Sidney via phone number with the Woodsboro area code, hometown of the franchise, reminding her and us that the past has not left her. And it becomes very clear that Sidney's daughter, Tatum Evans, played by Isabel May, is now on the killer's radar. The name Tatum, obviously honoring Tatum, Sidney's best friend from the original, played by Rose McGowan, another queen. So the phone call, Sid and the killer go back and forth. Ghostface jumps down from the attic, which is a sick shot. And look, I don't care how basic, how overrated, how simpleton of me it seems, the Ghostface design will always be my absolute favorite. This dark shadow figure with a hood, just, it looks so badass to me. So they show a quick fight, and Sid kicks the killer to the ground and then locks herself and daughter in what looks like a panic room. Laurie Strode a la Halloween 2018. Everyone's thinking it. Then it shows them in the walls moving around, which if you have a panic room, why are you moving around in hollow walls? Maybe because they want to incorporate a scene like this, because the killer then starts stabbing through those hollow walls and then it cuts away. I did like this though, because this tells me that we are going back to suspenseful chase scenes. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Scream 6, but my biggest issue was it was too much like a superhero film. Actually, it was giving Terminator vibes, like horror action, and there wasn't any suspense, which is what the original trilogy and Scream 4 thrived on. Now, about halfway through, the trailer shows Tatum looking to her mother and saying something dumb like, "I want to be a fighter like you." And I rolled my eyes and hope it's just a trailer-only line, or it's set in like a different tone. Like, you know how sometimes in trailers they show a character saying a line one way, then in the actual film it's set in a completely different way or a different tone. It's usually more dramatic and over the top for the trailer. And yeah, we will see the return of legacy characters. The iconic Gale Weathers, played by Courtney Cox, makes an appearance, as well as the Meeks twins, who OG fans aren't really fond of, but I actually love them. Jasmine Savoy Brown and the disgustingly good-looking and hunky Mason Gooding are back. I think they'll be killed off this time, sadly, and I wonder if we're getting an explanation on Sam and Tara being absent. And I'm going to get into that dirty tampon of a topic a little later, but let me just keep going through the trailer here. Now, visually, the trailer gives us a key motive, because with one of the final shots is the burning of the Stu Macher house. It's even on the poster, reflected in Ghostface's knife. It suggests a scorched legacy theme. The past physically and symbolically is on fire. And I think this is great because, and as an OG Scream fan, I think them finally burning this fucking house to the ground is great, because we can't keep going back to the Stu Macher house for nostalgia purposes, right? Scream 2022 already did that. Now, what I think all of this suggests is that the film is clearly placing Sidney back at the center of things, as it should. It's her story again. It's always been. It's her franchise, her legacy, her bringing Jamie Lee Curtis, her trauma. According to various production comments, though, the director and creator, Kevin Williamson, wants to explore who she is now. What kind of person lives through everything that she's lived through and still manages to wake up and be a mother. There is talk about the film using AI to bring back past killers, but I think for a fact Stumacher, played by Matthew Lillard, is back, like actually back, and not in like this AI form, which I'm not a fan of. I really don't want them to bring back characters who've died via AI. Like I just, me and AI just, I don't know how to explain. You all know my feelings on AI. Just listen to past episodes. But like, you can even hear Matthew Lillard's voice at the end of the trailer saying this is going to be fun or something like that. So the threat is personal, I'm thinking, at least I'm hoping. I don't want another cop and his kids, okay? And what we have here is a trailer that feels like a homecoming. Sidney Prescott is back. The legacy of Ghostface returns, and her daughter or daughters, I'm not sure how they're going to address that, they're now in the line of fire. It's personal, it's familiar, the stakes will hopefully seem high here, and it looks like it may dig into the weight of surviving the horror and just trying to build a normal life afterward. And as for the opening in the old Stumacher house, Airbnb, I think that's a smart move. It roots the story back into the franchise's roots right away, before pulling the rug out by shifting to the domestic suburban lives of the characters we know. The tension, it to me comes from the collision of normal life, Sydney as a mom, a business owner, with the chaotic horror of Ghostface, and I think that's really cool. But also, and I was hoping we wouldn't go this route, but I was hoping we would not do the whole Laurie Strode trauma safe house route, but you can't have it all, can you? And what the trailer succeeds in showing me, that this is going to be a Scream film again. But after the release of the trailer came what you'd expect, a mix of excitement and, most annoyingly, the hate. Like, I'm exhausted. And don't get it twisted, what happened to Melissa Barrera was disgusting, and I've already said my piece on that. Let's be honest here. What major company hasn't mishandled or mistreated their talent at some point? Just because it isn't plastered all over headlines or social media doesn't mean it's not happening behind the scenes. But the endless cycle of negativity online and bullying is just exhausting. Every other post is boycott Scream 7. We're so tired of Sydney all of a sudden. Other comments like Scream 7 supports genocide. The trailer looks boring. It's giving performative outrage, honestly. And then there's a part that really bothers me. People jumping into the comments to attack others who are simply excited. Like, why? What does that accomplish? And to be honest with you, I've just started responding to those comments with links on how to actually support. Because truthfully, a lot of these quote-unquote activists aren't doing anything productive. They're just bullying strangers online for being excited about a movie. They have no idea what people quietly support, what people quietly donate to or advocate for. They just assume. And you don't know what I contribute to or what I stand for, but I do know what you're advocating for right now: being a bully. And the real issue isn't who's excited, it's who's using that excitement as an excuse to tear people down. Like, we need to be so fucking for real and maybe a little more human and level-headed about it. Anyway, Scream 7 hits theaters February 27th. Let's move on. And this, my friends, is exactly why I don't go hiking. So there's been this viral TikTok that's been freaking people out. And it all started when one woman shared a creepy experience she had while hiking in a U.S. national park. And what she caught on camera is probably the stuff of nightmares. The park she was in is called Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve. It's in central Idaho, and the place is wild. Like, imagine a massive stretch of black lava rock, twisted and broken, with jagged mounds of cold magma and scattered sagebrush. It's dry, it's quiet, and it looks nothing like Earth. That's probably why it's called Craters of the Moon, because honestly, it feels like walking on another planet. I haven't been, but just from what I've looked up, from looking into this. And because of all of those rock formations and cracks, there are countless little nooks and tunnels and caves around, and, well, anything could be hiding, right? So this woman, her name's Tiffany, she posted a video on TikTok explaining that she was hiking through the park when she suddenly started getting that feeling. You know, the one like something's behind you, like eyes are on you, even though you're basically alone, allegedly. In her video, she starts filming what looks like a totally normal stretch of rocky terrain. Nothing weird at first, but then she slowly pans her camera toward a dark opening near the base of a rock wall. It's small, maybe about waist high, just wide enough for someone to crouch inside. And as she zooms in, the lighting adjusts a little bit, and that's when you see inside that cave opening, there's this shape that looks way too much like a face, and I'm getting chills right now just describing it. It's this like pale, almost chalk white against the black rock, with two dark hollow looking eye shapes that seem to be staring straight toward the camera. Chills. And below them, this long, drawn out black line that looks like a mouth stretched into this smile. It's not moving, not blinking, it's just there. And it's blurry enough that your brain keeps trying to process and make sense of what the fuck we're looking at, right? Like, is it a person crouched in the dark? Is it a mask? Or is it just the shadows and lights playing tricks? But the longer you look, the more it feels like something is actually looking back. So yeah, the video blows up immediately, obviously, because people flooded the comments with theories. Some said it was definitely a person hiding inside the cave. Others thought maybe it was a bear or a mountain lion peeking out from the shadows. But then the weirder theories started. People started saying it looked like a demon or the Babadook, referencing that creepy movie from 2014 where that little boy pisses you off the whole movie. One commenter joked, "Why is the literal Babadook chilling in a hole?" Like, do you remember when the Babadook became a gay icon, like during Pride? I think it was like 2017, where people were just like, Baba Yas, and then he literally became like an icon for gay pride. Like, he was on pride flags and people made rainbow art of it. It was hilarious. And then someone tried to be logical, saying it was probably just a rock catching the light the wrong way, or maybe a prank, someone putting a mask inside the cave to mess with hikers, which honestly wouldn't be so shocking. Except Tiffany wasn't the only one who saw it. Another person commented saying they had taken a photo of that same cave on their visit and they saw the same face. So maybe it's a trick of the light, or maybe someone did put a mask there and it's just there for all these hikers to see. Nothing really spooky or crazy really came from that story, but every time I cover something having to do with the wilderness, it brings my brain to the missing 411 cases. And if you've ever looked into that, you know it's just one of those topics that you think about when you are in these situations in the wild. If you go visit a national park, like, you're just like, holy fuck, missing 411, is that going to be me? Like, now, for anyone who's not familiar, missing 411 is this term coined by a former police detective named David Paulides. He started digging into the strange disappearances happening inside U.S. national parks and forests. And the more he looked, the weirder it got, because these aren't your typical missing person cases. These are cases that follow a pattern, one that doesn't really make sense. We're talking about experienced hikers, experienced hunters, campers, people who know the outdoors, vanishing without a trace. No footprints, no broken branches, no signs of a struggle. Sometimes search dogs lose the scent within feet of where the person was last seen. It's like they just stepped off the map, vanished into thin air. And I've done a few cases like this. So if you're interested in hearing like full cases, visit some of my past episodes. And these cases also don't just revolve around adults. There are children too. Some disappear for days only to turn up miles away, barefoot, no scratches on their feet, no memory of where they've been. Others are found in places that would be impossible to reach on their own. David noticed that these cases often happen near boulder fields, dense forest, or water sources, areas where visibility drops quick, where echoes carry strangely. And then there's the timing. A lot of these disappearances happen right before sudden weather changes, like a freak storm rolling in just hours after someone goes missing. It's almost like the weather's working against the search. And maybe the most haunting detail, the locations where the bodies are eventually found, if they're found at all. Some are discovered in areas that had already been searched multiple times. Like, search teams will comb through a spot for days, find nothing. And then weeks later, a body just appears there. Perfectly visible, as if someone or something placed it there after the fact. And one of the cases that really haunts people, especially here in the US, is the disappearance of Dior Kunz Jr. So back in July of 2015, 2-year-old Dior went camping with his parents, his grandfather, and a family friend in this remote area of Lemhi County, Idaho, near Timber Creek Campground. It's this rugged, beautiful place surrounded by thick forest, steep terrain, and icy mountain creeks. The kind of place that feels totally isolated, like you're hours from the nearest bit of civilization. According to the family, Dior was playing near the campsite 1 minute, and the next, he was gone, just vanished. His parents said they thought he was with his grandfather. The grandfather thought he was with them, but when they realized he wasn't with either of them, panic hit instantly. Search teams arrived quickly, local police, firefighters, even the FBI, and they searched for days. Helicopters, drones, dogs, divers, everything, and yet nothing. Not a piece of clothing, not a footprint, not even a sock. Now, remember, this was a 2-year-old, small, barely mobile, not exactly capable of covering miles of rugged ground, but what baffled searchers was that even the scent tracking dogs lost a trail within feet of the campsite. It was like he had just been lifted out of the forest. Now, over time, theories started flying. Some people thought it was an animal attack, but there was no blood, there was no drag marks, no sign of struggle. Others thought he had wandered off, but if that were the case, the dogs would have found something. And then came the darker theories that maybe someone in the group knew more than they were letting on. But to this day, no one's ever been charged, and Dior's body has never been found. Now, to be fair, the National Park Service doesn't officially acknowledge missing 411 as a real phenomenon. They treat each disappearance as an isolated incident, which makes sense from a law enforcement perspective. But David argues that the sheer number of cases and the repeating details are too consistent to ignore. And maybe that's what makes it so unsettling, because whether you believe it's human error, something environmental, or something we just don't have words for just yet, it all comes down to the same thing. People go into these parks and some of them never come back out. Which circles right back to Tiffany's story, because when she said she felt like something was watching her out there, it's hard not to think about all the people who probably felt that exact same thing right before they disappeared, right? And that right there is exactly why I stay on my couch. I'm sure by now we are all aware of 31 Atlas. It's a comet which was discovered by this program called the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. Basically, a sky survey that looks for stuff flying near Earth. What makes this comet special is that it's not from our solar system. It's from way out there. It's the third confirmed interstellar object we've ever found passing through our solar system after Oumuamua and Borisov. Now, don't worry, it's not coming anywhere near close to us. The closest it'll get is about 1.8 astronomical units away, which is almost twice the distance between the Earth and the Sun. So no danger, no apocalyptic comet collision or anything like that. In my life, I think I've only seen like 3 comets. I remember being very small, and I used to be very afraid of comets because of movies like Deep Impact and Armageddon, all that. But I remember, again, like my dad, he was always into like really cool stuff. One night he woke everyone up. He's like, "Hey, come check out this comet." And it looked really close. And I'll always remember just everyone like looking up at the sky, and this like huge comet was just like passing by. Now, back in July of 2025, astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who's kind of known for pushing that alien theory angle, and we all know here, I love me some alien stories, but Avi Loeb published a paper suggesting 31 Atlas might not be natural at all. He said it could be an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Now, as for his reasoning, apparently it had a few anomalous characteristics. Its size, its chemical makeup, or lack of certain chemicals, and its oddly neat trajectory through the solar system. Basically, it's coming in too clean, it's coming in too precise. However, Other scientists were not on board with that. A lot of them called it distracting or said his math didn't really check out. Astronomers pointed out that telescopes have literally seen the comet doing comet things, releasing gas, dust, all of that. And when it got closer to the sun, the James Webb Space Telescope and other observatories confirmed it's definitely giving off water, CO2, and other common comet gases. So the consensus is, yeah, it's a comet, but Loeb's idea definitely stirred things up. And to be fair, he's done this before. He also thought the first interstellar object, named Oumuamua, might have been alien tech because of how strangely it moved through space. But even he's admitted this one, 31 Atlas, is probably natural. He just thinks it's fun to ask the what if question. And my only issue with basically calling every interstellar object extraterrestrial: one, people are going to be sick of you. Two, if it actually happens one day, nobody is going to take it seriously. Actually, maybe that will. We've got people out here believing AI generated shit, so never mind. I take that all back. But honestly, I kind of agree with that. It is fun to ask what if with certain scenarios and situations, right? Like, you can't close the door on possibilities like that. I mean, it's totally fair to be skeptical and say, hey, extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof. But at the same time, it's fun to imagine, like, what if it is something artificial? What if it's a signal or a probe or something we don't have the technology to even recognize yet? And it's funny though, because my brain immediately jumps to cases like the Heaven's Gate cult. Remember that cult from the 90s? They believed this UFO was hiding behind the Hale-Bopp comet and that it was going to take them to the next level of existence. And actually, it's a pretty tragic story. I don't know why I'm talking about it so enthusiastically, but it shows just how much mystery and belief just get wrapped up in these cosmic visitors. Now, I'm not saying we're about to start wearing matching sneakers and waiting for a spaceship, but I do think that it is fascinating that decades later, we're still looking up at these objects and wondering if we're being watched. Now, on the flip side of things, while everyone is looking up at space because of 31 Atlas and wondering if aliens are passing through our solar system, there have been a bunch of new reports that suggest that maybe we shouldn't be looking up at all. We should be looking down. I read reports from one platform called Enigma, which calls itself the #1 destination for UFO sighting alerts and aerial intelligence. And there's been this massive spike in unexplained activity on both the east and west coasts of the US, but it's not in the sky. It's coming from the water. And crazy enough, since August 2025, Enigma has logged over 9,000 sightings along US shorelines, many of them within just a few miles of the coast. California is top on the list with nearly 400 reports, and Florida is right behind with a little over 300. So people in the UFO communities are saying this could be something big. Ron James from the Mutual UFO Network went on record saying there could be an advanced civilization that's coexisting with us here on Earth. He said it might not be aliens from space at all. They could be living inside the Earth or underwater, or maybe it's a mix of extraterrestrials who've built bases here, or some completely separate intelligent species that's always been part of this planet. And one of the more talked about videos out right now shows 2 bright glowing green lights moving just beneath the surface off Fort Lauderdale. The video was taken from a boat, and people swear the lights were moving too fast and too precisely to be anything man-made. And this isn't totally new. The term for these things is USOs, unidentified submersible objects. Basically, they're the ocean version of UFOs. Everything from medieval sailors' journals to modern military sonar logs. Witnesses describe them as moving at insane speeds, changing direction instantly, and sometimes even transitioning from water to air without making a splash. It's called transmedium travel, basically defying physics as we know it. There was even a verified case back in 2019 involving the USS Omaha off the coast of San Diego. The Navy recorded this object that entered the water and just disappeared. The Pentagon confirmed the video was legit, but didn't offer an explanation really, which we all know the government is hiding shit from us. This isn't anything new. So now, on one hand, we've got an interstellar comet cruising through the solar system that some scientists think could be alien-made. On another, we've got those mysterious drones, remember I covered earlier this year. And yet, on another hand, we've got mysterious glowing craft darting around under our oceans. At what point do we just admit that something weird is definitely going on, right? And honestly, it kind of ties back to what I said before with Heaven's Gate. People looked at Hale-Bopp and believed it was their ticket off Earth. They were searching for meaning in the unknown. And here we are, decades later, still doing the same thing. And like I said, maybe the truth isn't up in the sky this time. Maybe it's been right under us the whole time. Now, do I think aliens are living under the Pacific Ocean? Yes, actually. I mean, I'm open to it, okay? The ocean is basically this whole other planet that we haven't explored yet. If we can only see about 5% of it, which is commonly shared, who's to say what's down in the other 95% of it, right? So between 31 Atlas flying by and mysterious glowing USOs doing donuts off the coast of California, I'm just saying, if this really is all leading to an alien reveal, I'd be open to it. I mean it. It would be terrifying, sure, but also kind of poetic. Because after everything that this planet has gone through lately, an alien reveal would be a pretty great series finale for 2025. Let's take another break. We are back and getting into Terrifying But True, the segment where I choose one random true crime, dark history, or paranormal case and do a deep dive on it. This episode, I'm diving into Oz. Yes, I said it, Oz. Because in honor of the new film, Wicked for Good, I felt it would be fun or interesting to take a peek behind the scenes of one of the most iconic films in American history and the reason the Wicked franchise even exists. Let's get into the terrifying but true history of The Wizard of Oz. When the unthinkable becomes reality, we find ourselves questioning everything, as some stories are too terrifying but true. On the outside, The Wizard of Oz looks so cute with its ruby slippers and technicolor fantasy, but behind the scenes, this movie was basically built on pain, poison, lawsuits, injuries, rumors, tabloid fever dreams, and a level of darkness that's honestly shocking considering how cheerful the final product actually is. Let's just say the yellow brick road was a slippery one. Was that joke stupid? Now, I'm starting with Judy. Sweet, iconic, 16-year-old Judy Garland, the heart of the entire movie. MGM loved her voice, loved her innocence, and absolutely took advantage of her. They decided she wasn't thin enough for camera, called her things like fat, pudgy. They even called her Little Hunchback. But instead of adjusting the costumes or the lighting, they put her on what they call the studio diet, which meant they fed her chicken soup, black coffee, cigarettes, pills to speed her up, pills to slow her down, and that's pretty much it. They barely let her eat, kept her working these long, exhausting 14 to 16-hour days, and constantly made comments about her weight. She was a teenager being treated like a product. The studio also didn't want her looking too childlike. They also forced her into a corset to keep her body straight and flat. So imagine trying to sing Over the Rainbow on 0 calories and a handful of stimulants. That's the real magic trick here, honestly. And that treatment didn't end when filming did. It set the stage for Judy's lifelong issues with addiction and mental health. MGM basically created a tragedy and then wondered why she struggled. And then we've got Margaret Hamilton, our Wicked Witch of the West, who honestly deserved hazard pay. Her green makeup, It was full of copper-based chemicals that were absolutely not safe for skin or ingestion. She couldn't even eat properly because she was terrified of swallowing any of it. And if that weren't enough, the infamous scene where the witch disappears in a burst of smoke and fire, it went very wrong. The trapdoor she was supposed to go down in malfunctioned. The explosion went off at the wrong time, and Margaret Hamilton literally caught on fire. Her face and hands were severely burned. They had to haul her to the hospital and shut down production for weeks. And when she finally returned, she refused to do any more fire stunts, which makes perfect sense. But MGM just turned around and put her stunt double in the fire scenes instead. And guess what? The stunt double got burned too. The production was just basically cursed by stupidity at this point. The Tin Man wasn't spared either. Originally, an actor named Buddy Epson was cast, and the makeup department created this shiny silver look using aluminum powder. Real, breathable aluminum powder dusted all over his face. And within days, he was coughing, he was struggling to breathe, and eventually was hospitalized because the aluminum had literally coated his lungs. His reaction was so severe that he almost died, and he had to be replaced. Imagine losing your job because you're hospitalized from almost dying on set. Classic Hollywood. MGM eventually recast the role with Jack Haley and changed the formula slightly so it wouldn't instantly poison him. It was still toxic though, just slightly less deadly. Less deadly, but the new aluminum paste that they created still got in Jack Haley's eye and gave him an infection. Now my favorite character, the Cowardly Lion, played by Bert Lahr, was suffering too. And I think this is probably the most disgusting one, if you ask me, because his costume weighed around 90 pounds and was made of actual lion pelts because MGM was committed to realism in the most inconvenient ways possible. Under brutal studio lights, he was sweating buckets, which only made the costume heavier and smellier. They would have to dry the thing out every day because it would get so soaked. Like, imagine having to do a whole performance while slowly being baked alive in a giant furry oven thing. Reminds me of the ending of Midsummer. If you know, you know. Now, there's a snow scene. You know, Dorothy lying in the poppy field while magical white snowflakes fall all over her. It's adorable, except the snow wasn't snow. It wasn't even paper or foam. It was full-on industrial asbestos. Now, at the time, people thought asbestos was this miracle material, so the crew was literally sprinkling it on the actors like holiday confetti. Judy, Toto, everyone breathing in clouds of it. And the poppy field scene is cute until you realize everyone is inhaling carcinogens. Now, the Munchkins, this whole part of production has its own mythology here. But as for the Munchkins, the production brought in around 120 little person actors, many of whom had never been given roles of this scale before. And being in Hollywood in 1930s chaos, the set naturally got a little wild. They drank, they partied, some of them got rowdy. Nothing unusual for adult actors away from home, right? But the tabloids, they spun it into the circus of sensationalism. Suddenly, reporters were claiming there were wild Munchkin orgies in the hotel. I mean, these were adults, so if they were, let them. Other alleged activity said that they were constantly out causing trouble or that they had to be wrangled by security like circus animals. None of that was backed up by real evidence, though. Much of it came from gossip columnists who loved to exploit little person actors because audiences found them exotic at that time. So a lot of those stories were exaggerated or flat out made up. And then, of course, the infamous Munchkin hanging himself on set rumor. This one has lived on for decades, okay? To this day, still, people swear up and down that in the scene where Dorothy, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man are skipping down the yellow brick road, there's a silhouette swinging from a tree in the background. There's even fake screenshots of the scene depicting it. But the truth is way less dramatic because MGM had brought in these exotic birds to make this forest seem more lively. And one of them, a crane, spread its wings in the background. And I can understand on old, lower quality home videos, it looks like a hanging shadow figure, but no one died on set, no suicide, just a weirdly enthusiastic bird. Now, like I said, The Wizard of Oz is this iconic film, but I think a part that people do forget is that The Wizard of Oz wasn't universally loved when it first came out. It's wild because now it feels like it's always been that bitch, right? Like it's everyone's favorite movie. It's crazy because when it premiered in 1939, it did okay. Like, it wasn't a complete flop, but not a major moneymaker either. It was an expensive film to make, $3 million. And once MGM added in the marketing and distribution costs, the film didn't turn a meaningful profit. And unfortunately, it premiered the same year Gone with the Wind dropped, and nothing was going to compete with that giant. So the studio was banking on the film making more money in other countries. But then there's this little fact that Adolf Hitler banned the movie in Nazi Germany because he thought the film was too hopeful. He thought the film was too whimsical and too rebellious. The whole follow your own path message was absolutely not on brand with fascism. So the movie was banned because it encouraged imagination and independence. The Nazis didn't want people thinking freely or dreaming about leaving oppressive systems. So Dorothy was basically outlawed. Now, the real moment Wizard of Oz became iconic didn't happen until 1956, which was nearly 20 years after it was released. See, because major studio network CBS aired it on television, and that's when it became this cultural event. Families would gather around the TV, kids watch it in their pajamas. It became this annual holiday tradition. The kind of thing where your grandma watched it, your mom watched it, then you watched it. That broadcast transformed it from that old MGM musical into The Wizard of Oz. And I would say that its real legacy was actually born on living room floors, not in movie theaters. So when you look back at this movie, the bright colors, the cute songs, the iconic characters, it feels impossible to imagine how dark and chaotic it really was. Between the injuries, the toxic materials, the rumors, the exploitation of young actors, the scandals, the Nazi ban, the disappointing original box office run, and the decades-long climb into pop culture immortality, it's basically a glittery fever dream held together with asbestos and trauma. As I always say, thanks so much for listening in. I truly love being here, and just thank you for allowing me to continue doing this podcast. This podcast means so much to me. It's my little escape. It's my little space to connect with people from around the world. As I always say, get those questions and stories in for the next episode. But until then, I will scare you all on the next one. Imagine being a barista for Sidney Prescott.
Thank you for tuning into the Scream Society podcast, hosted, written, produced, and edited by yours truly, Ralph Anthony. Help the society grow by subscribing on your favorite platform and leave a rating and review. I always strive for 5s. Have a horror or paranormal experience? Want me to answer your questions on the show? Submit to beacons.ai/The Scream Society. Connect with the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Scream Society Podcast. And until next time, I'll scare you on the next episode.